Hey, John Martinez here with the REI Sales Academy, and I want to talk about follow-up. The reality of the situation is not every sales call you go on or that you take over the phone is going to immediately turn into a deal. There's still some deals that are floating out there, and it's going to take a little bit of follow-up to really bring them to a close. So a question I get all the time is, what do I do with follow-up? What questions do I ask? How do I handle follow-up? Because I feel like every time I call, I'm just saying, how about now? How about now? How about now? And it doesn't really get me anywhere. People stop answering the calls. It's just not a very effective follow-up strategy. So let me tell you exactly what you want to do during a follow-up. In order to explain what you want to do, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I want you to think about one or two things that you have considered purchasing but didn't purchase, let's say in the last month, right? Maybe you had no plans to purchase it and it was pitched to you. Or maybe you were considering something and you didn't pull the trigger for one reason or the other. Now, next question is why? Now, your answer to that is going to fall into one of two categories, I guarantee it. It's either going to fall into the motivation category, like, hey, maybe I could have bought it, whatever, but I didn't really want to. There wasn't the motivation. I didn't see what it would do for me. I didn't have that good pull. I just didn't think it was worth it. It's motivation, right? The other bucket's going to be, well, I really wanted it, but something stood in the way. There was something out there, a concern, a risk, something that was uncomfortable. I call them deal killers. It's always motivation or deal killers. So if someone's still picking up your phone calls, if someone's still talking to you, if there's still something left in the deal and you're trying to get it over the finish line, you really only got one mission on your follow-up, and it's to figure out, is it a motivation situation or is it a deal killer that needs to be addressed? So that's it. Go after motivations and deal killers on every follow-up call. And you can just say it just like that, right? If I was doing a follow-up call, it'd sound exactly like that. It'd say, hey, this is John Martinez. Listen, I wanted to chat with you a little bit more about your house on 123 Smith Street. Usually when we get to the point where we're at, one of three things needs to really happen. Either, hey, it's already a no, you've decided a no, and if that's the case, that's okay. I just want to figure it out so I can mark you off my list and not bother you anymore. But if it's still something you're considering, then usually it's one of two things you're thinking about. Do I really need to do this? Or, hey, I want to do this, but there's some stuff I got to figure out first. And that's what this call is about. I want to figure out, do we need to mark this a no? Is it something that you just think you might have to do or want to do or you're considering, but it's just there's not enough there to push you over the edge? Or, hey, I really want to do this, but I got to figure out a couple things first. Which one is it for you? And now you're on the right track. If it's a no, mark them a no, put them in an automated drip, do whatever you need to do. If it's a motivation thing, we can actually turn up motivation by asking problem, impact, and picture perfect questions. Well, let me ask you this. If you do sell, where would you go? Why is that important to you? What would that change on a day-to-day basis for you? Would that change how you felt, what you thought about, what you spent your money on, how you spent your time, right? Well, what about the property right now? Is it even important enough to do something about? What led you to even start thinking about selling? Is that important? How does that impact you? We can actually turn up that knob on motivation. Now, if they're already motivated and they say, well, you know, there's just a couple things I got to figure out. Hey, it makes perfect sense. Some of those things I'm able to help with. Some of them I'm not able to. Let's list the top two or three, and I'll either tell you, hey, there's nothing I could do for you. If there is, I'll tell you what it is. And if there's someone else I think can serve you better, I'm just going to point you in that direction. And we systematically turn up motivation if we need to, remove all the deal killers if we need to, or we just kill the deal ourselves if we're wasting our time and we let our automated drips or follow-up campaigns deal with it. So what do we do when it comes to motivation? Well, we find out, is it a motivation bucket thing? Is it a deal killer thing? Or is it neither and we just need to kill the deal and we're wasting our time following up with someone who's never going to do business with us? If you use those rules and you follow that advice, your follow-ups will become a lot more effective and you'll close more deals that you can actually close.